loud. That was a lot. Boom, boom. All right, call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Todd.
Here.
Councilmember Saper.
Here.
Councilmember McGrone.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Fitzgerald.
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
All right, next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Will be led by Councilmember Todd tonight. All right, next item is the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Is this specifically including the consent agenda items? Would this be the time
You can pull
to?
it now or then either way.
I would just say, as a part of the consent agenda items, I would just like to pull the items for discussion 11 through 15? Yes, 11 through 15.
11 through 15 will be the first things discussed under regular items. All right, is there a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, comments from the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak this evening, please step up to the podium. Going, and good evening. There you go.
That's not on. Okay.
I got you.
I'm here tonight just to ask, and I see it's on the agenda, so that makes me happy. I was wanting an update on the Forest Park project and also the slope stabilization and also what's going on our street, Seminole. You guys came out, looked at the slope that's in all of our backyard, and I really haven't heard anything else what's going on. Somebody was supposed to call. I heard somebody came over. I work part-time, so I wasn't there. I just would like to have an update. The second one, and Amy, I'm not quite sure what that means, except I had watched with some interest about the public safety memorial construction, and I had not heard anything else about any bids, ongoing bids, or what's happening. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public comments? Seeing none, move on to the amended consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the amended consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Hold on just a second. Did we approve the?
We took,
We
Okay.
moved 11 through 15.
do you want to further amend?
I would
Is there
like to
further?
ask
Okay.
a question about one other thing on the consent agenda. Can I pull an item now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about
Pull 16.
There's two of those in a row for different.
Yep.
Just want the 16 time.
Yeah, 16's fine.
Okay. All right. We'll discuss 11 through 16 in order on the regular agenda. There we go. Further items pulled before we go on here.
Move to approve the
There we go.
consent agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. That now takes us to item 11, contract for public safety memorial construction, architectural metal, resolution number 24051. I guess I'll call on Amy.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I guess, for one, I am fully in approval of us constructing a memorial for our public safety officials and officers. I think my understanding going in was that we approved a budget item, and this is likely my misremembering, but that we approved a budget item that we plugged the money in that space so that we could sort of receive funds or receive things that could equate to that in whatever better verbiage that happens from the government or city perspective. But I was kind of taken aback that we were just there, it's go time, we're now, I guess, got bids. What I noticed in asking kind of what grants may have been applied for to help with the cost, or what businesses were asked, if they would be willing to donate either time or materials. And I do have the perspective that there's a prevailing wage that has to be achieved in this, but also businesses can still donate that time and then pay their employees a prevailing wage. So there's all ways around it, but I just felt like maybe some steps were missed where we didn't exactly give everyone an opportunity in the business community and the residential community to kind of contribute to this overall project. Because I just feel like, and I had constituents reach out to me too, that, where did this come from and where's the funding coming from? And just kind of knowing what direction we're going. I did notice there was a landscaping piece that I've loosely heard maybe there was maybe too much paperwork around being able to contribute. I don't know. It's just, I think I just wondered what we did to ask for kind of those donations. And I was honestly just hoping for, and have we also considered the maintenance that will be associated so we know the cost going forward so that we have a bigger picture overall in going forward. And the other piece was that we did have one architect design this. And then for the granite, we're, putting this together. This is becoming like a little over a $500,000 memorial. And I think I want to be sure that we're considering all pieces of the puzzle and doing our due diligence to apply for whatever could be applied for and ask of the business community if anybody would like to contribute and what ways we went about that. I think that's just where I'm coming from.
Councilmember Fitzgerald, I'll let you get it as well.
And I'm in support of building a memorial. I like the idea, but just the dollar amount was a little high. I went back to the August 15, 2023 meeting, and I recognize there might be some items that changed in between then and now. It's been a year, but at that point in time, we had some discussion of trying to get in-kind services and similar to offset portions of the cost. So I was just curious about the status of that or what may or may not have happened.
All right, we've got two questions, I guess, on the solicitation sort of process. Who wants to grab that one?
So, I'll say I don't recall discussion of grants. Not that it didn't I don't recall it. But I do remember, yes, the thought at the time, this was 2 years ago, almost. The thought at the time was there were going to be in-kind contributions. I think those were messages that were relayed to the architect helping us as well as some of our staff. As you could see in the bids, that didn't happen. There was one bid, the landscaping, I believe, that had some in-kind contribution attached to it, but that didn't happen, as you can see. So, as far as why, I do recall during the discussion, whenever it was, that we weren't trying to go door to door to businesses and solicit. It was something that was brought to staff as something to do or as a project. So we weren't trying to go door to door saying, hey, will you donate to this or will you donate to that? But the word we received was that was being talked about and relayed to the architect, and in turn we had heard the same from I want to say Business Council, possibly. I'm searching here, but no. As you can see, we didn't get the contributions we thought we would. It was a long process. We fear that momentum died out during the length, and but as far as moving forward, that's what this discussion's for. Then, yeah.
Are we aware if so a lot of these firms, I guess, reach out to the architecture company. Do we know if they reached back out to them at all? Anytime of recent?
I believe the architect is here.
Oh.
Give a little background. Give a little more background on the process.
Good evening.
Good evening. Rick Huell, WSKF Architects, 110 Armour Road. It has been a fairly lengthy process to get to this point. I know of at least one entity that requested the opportunity to make a donation to the project once the project had some firmness to it. And I think we're at that point right now. So I have not reached back out to anybody at this point in time regarding potential donations. And I think you're right. There were some folks that were interested in making contributions of materials and or time. This being a public project made that kind of complicated because of prevailing wage and those stipulations. So the feedback that I've gotten from some of the bidders is that it became difficult for them to really make those donations based on the framework of how this came about.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Appreciate that. I can imagine, given the bid process we have to go through and do RFPs for all this stuff, it would be hard to donate, say, a slab of granite or a piece of, wiring or something like that, given that whoever bids is including that in their bid. I think that if we go ahead and approve the bids, because we have gone through the bidding process, that we can then, as you mentioned, now that we've got a more firm direction on the project, reach back out to those, even the ones that we're offering in-kind donations of materials or whatever. There's a monetary value to those that they would now not be donating. But if they're willing to put some money on the table in the amount of whatever it would have cost for, say, that granite or that labor, and if not, we understand. Also, kind of what Amy mentioned is framing it as an opportunity to contribute. So I'm not sure who would be making the ask, but rather than going door to door and saying, "Hey, you give us some money for this," putting out a general ask, maybe through the business council or through some of the trade organizations around, and say, "Hey, this is what we're doing. We're honoring our public safety officials and creating a memorial here. Would you like to contribute?" And whatever that looks like, I obviously don't want to throw an extra piece of the monument to say, sponsored by Hy-Vee or whatever, but to find a way to note that they were part of the process as we dedicated or something along those lines. But finding a way to get the opportunity out to the community to contribute, because I think during the time there's a lot of people, hey, if we can help in any way, let us know. And as we've gone a year past the approval, some of that interest has died off unless we reach back out. So I think now, after approving the bids, would be a good time to do that.
One of the things that I'm unclear about, at some point in time, I think there was a suggestion that there could be a contribution that the city would. So initially, it was a 501c3 that we were going for, and I think there was maybe a suggestion that through this bid process, there would still be that opportunity for a tax consideration.
I think what we landed on with that was City Councilor Barzie's opinion is that someone could donate to this project because it is a municipal project for the public good, and they could in turn receive some tax benefits from that if they work that out with their accountant. But as far as having a specific 501c3, we opted to not do that part of it because of that opinion.
Perfect.
As long as we can communicate that back out to the businesses interested, that there's still the opportunity for the tax benefit.
Absolutely.
And I'll go back to, Tom did have a point in the memo, noted he's not a tax attorney either, and everyone should consult with their own attorneys before making a donation, of course. Councilmember Clark.
So if I'm hearing it correctly, instead of an abeyance of this particular item, to be able to kind of go back out and bring it back to life, I guess, as it were, to try to start the momentum of saying like, hey, maybe you missed the mark, maybe we hit the business council, just to say this is an opportunity. It's not a beg or an ask, it's an opportunity to contribute for a memorial for public safety. And but we're thinking just go ahead and approve what we have and hope that they will go back and maybe rethink and donate. Have we created a pathway for that? when we say, and I get it, I mean, Tom Barzee, I'm sure was like, we're not going to advise each business on what they need to do tax-wise. They'll know, though. Businesses know, and they can talk to their entities that be. But I'm just curious if we have any process where it feels like it feels easy or at least attractive in some way to contribute to something like this. Yeah, Anthony?
So the bids, the bid package was designed so that if a company wanted to donate or portion or all of the project, they could. There was actually a reordering of how we normally do projects. Surprisingly, we don't get a lot of other offers to donate towards public works projects, but these bids were designed so that if an entity wanted to contribute something, they had a way of doing that. We didn't get anything back in the bids, unfortunately, like that, but that option was there. It kind of outlined, hey, if we're going to build a thing, we still have to go by state statute and go by all these other rules, but, here's a provision where you can show us where you're going to, donate, or if you need that, if they needed that for their accounting, they could show that. The other thing that someone from Mega brought up was, they don't always have to go that route. We did, like for the granite, for example, the local company was like $40,000 less than the next bid. Is that because of, we don't know. That was their bid. There could be other information inside that we're not aware of. But anyway, just wanted to add that.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in the beginning of it, emotions were high and people were wanting to donate. And if they say we can help in whatever way, you may need, well, then I think sometimes they're waiting to see what that need is. And until you actually have something planned out or have a plan of what you're going to do, maybe they're just kind of waiting also. So the opportunity now is to show them maybe what we have planned, and then, hey, would you still, not to solicit, but just say, hey, this is what we're doing. Would you still be interested, or some way, but do it, with tact, and how would you like to participate in it, or however they would do it, and then have a contact person here if they would.
Thank you. I'll just say, since you're up here, I want to thank WSKF for your contributions to the project so far and your continued support. I know you all put a lot of time and energy and hours into this, and I appreciate the work you all have contributed.
It's our pleasure and honor, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, do we need to go one by one on these, or?
We got them one by one now.
So I guess by calling for approval on these, we would be effectively saying the city is going to get this done. Like, we're going to backstop the total number, and then with the understanding that there's a directive to reach out to the business community writ large, even the residents, and create a way that they can bring money in. But we budgeted for this number. The bids have been out and back, and if we move forward, I think we will have money come in. I don't know in what amount, but just making that as frictionless as possible.
And I guess I'm curious what that frictionless process would look like. I want to make sure we open that up, because it is discouraging to think that there could be companies that say, yes, I want to contribute, I want to be a part of this, how can I do it? And we throw a stack of paperwork at them and they're like, no thanks. Is it that? Is there some way to meet in the middle? I'm curious, because I don't know what that looks like from that side.
Just to be clear, are we talking about the contractors building it, or just you said the business community at large?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you're building a public project, there's state statutes that you have to follow in prevailing wage, bonding issues, you can't put a lien on a city, so there's bonding requirements, things like that. So contractors, I think, are pretty, set on what they have to do. Now, if they, as a company, want to donate, they can, but prevailing wage, they still have to pay Joe Smith, or somebody working for them, their wage rate. But if they, as a company, want to donate, that's a different matter. But then you're just talking.
You're talking about like Company X, which isn't one of these bidders, right?
Use an
now.
example.
Okay.
Harris, Julie, if you're watching.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Harris might want to contribute to this, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And if they wanted to put some money in the pot, we've already established a budget item. We're establishing who's going to be building it and at what rate. Now, the public or the businesses could backfeed the money in for the project.
Gotcha.
I think the receipt of funds is the easy part here. We've already discussed what would that look like
Okay.
if that were to occur, but it hasn't occurred, so we haven't executed that yet. But as far as receiving the money and then sending out some type of document
Yep.
from the police chief and the fire chief to say, thank you, Harrah's, for your donation.
Thank you,
to the
Harrah's.
Public Safety Memorial Project. Just, we appreciate it, and whatever language it needs to have in it to Tom's happiness.
Yep.
And covering us. So that's the easy part.
Perfect.
Is that it? Sending in money to the Public Safety Memorial Project? Is that sort of a defined item that they would be able to essentially call in or write in and say, who do I write the check to?
Yeah, it's all set up. It'd go through Nick or, Kevin or Dan. Either way, it'd funnel in. We already have, a revenue item or line that it would go into. And then, as Chief Freeman said, and then a letter/receipt acknowledging their, or documenting their contribution. That's very possible.
Okay.
We will. I'll just say, since it was said, we will reach out to the business council. I also trust that Rich is watching right now, as he does every meeting. So, thanks, Rich. Phone calls coming. But yes, we'll do that and others as well.
Perfect.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Just had one more comment. I think also if we get started on the project and people can see the project starting, you can actually see something progress, it'll bring attention to people that maybe had volunteered money before, and they'll actually see the project becoming what we plan to do, to do with it. So I think that might help too.
Thank you.
So do we want to go one by one?
Yep.
All right.
We are on number 11,
Move.
Resolution 24051.
Move to approve Resolution 24051.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 12, Contract for Public Safety Memorial Construction Electrical Resolution 24052.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 13, Contract for Public Safety Memorial Construction Site Civil, Site Concrete, and General Works, Resolution 24053.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 14, Contract for Public Safety Memorial Construction Granite Structures, Resolution number 24054.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 15, Contract for Public Safety Memorial Construction Plumbing, Resolution number 24055.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item number 16, Contract for on-call concrete repair, replacement, and construction projects with Musselman and Hall Contractors, LLC, Resolution number 24056. Councilmember Smith.
Yep. Hopefully simple question that I meant to send ahead of time. It looks like we're approving 2 on-call concrete repair construction companies. I looked at the bids, and it seems that Legacy was by far the least expensive, not only on materials, but also on hourly rates and pretty much everything down the way. Is there a reason we're doing 2? Is it just helpful to have a second?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like how we did 3 for the on-call water and sewer. There becomes events where one is, there's a time restriction, there's some kind of capacity issue, and hey, we need to get this fixed now. So that's the mentality behind it.
Okay.
Yes,
And-
would you consider one of them to be a primary then?
Right, that was my second.
We would alternate. That would be the ideal situations that we would alternate back and forth between different projects.
Okay, is there a way, I guess because one is so much less expensive, and by approving the bid, we're saying that they're equally qualified. It seems we would use one that does cost less unless we had the need to go to the other one. Instead of 1 to 2 to do back and forth, that we would go with the less expensive option unless we needed.
I think to be fair in the contracting, we would try to, typically like what we'd do is Musselman Hall is a bigger company, so if there's a bigger project, we might lean more to them. Sometimes it depends on the size of the project. But we could look at that. We could see if I need to talk to Tom, make sure that's something we can do. My alternating comment comes from talking with Tom on what is legally right, so I would have to check on that.
It seems like an odd requirement given the drastic difference in price. Now, I understand if there's a larger project that, say, Legacy couldn't cover, yeah, we can't use them for one they can't do.
Right.
But anything they could do, in my view, they should be the primary, and Musselman Hall would be the fallback.
Sure, understood. Yeah, I'll talk to Tom about it. Yeah.
Okay, do we need to, is the language in these contracts specific to alternating?
No, actually, it says that they may never get called. It
Okay.
doesn't lean to that, yeah.
Okay, good.
It's kind of a best practice that other cities do.
Would be interested to hear from Tom, his reasoning on that, but he's not here, so we'll do that next time.
Okay.
And I will move to approve the resolution.
It's like half.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries for item 16. Okay, we already approved 17, I guess. Okay. Now I'll let Crystal take back over reading.
Number 19, River Forest Park project update and slope stabilization discussion.
Lance Klein with SWT Design, 1925 Central Street, KC Mo. Get full screen going here. All right. Okay, is that better? I'm gonna raise it up too. Cool. All right. Got a screen here so I can follow along as well. Since we were here in mid-June, I guess really the Parks and Rec building, but last time we met with you all, we've been busy kind of updating the project and focusing on slope stabilization. And we want to talk about that primarily today, and then sort of wrap up with some discussion on the sort of next steps and overall process on the project. So, in our last meeting, we reviewed the kind of shift of the play area up to the upper area, closer to the restroom building. The design of that upper area has pretty much stayed the same from what we shared in the last meeting. One adjustment has been that we've had to increase the size of the bioretention area there. And this is to accommodate some of the requirements from the levee district, as well as manage some of the stormwater runoff from that north slope. And I'll talk more about that later in the presentation. One question we had in the last meeting was, if we moved play, would the overall cost of the park increase or decrease? And generally, the cost of the park decreased slightly, but as we added some of the additional stormwater infrastructure from the north slope, that did increase cost of that bioretention area. And then another kind of update on the park site is we did finally achieve a no-rise on the hydraulic model, which basically allows us to submit that to the Army Corps for permitting and to also work with the levee district on that. So in terms of sort of the park area, to kind of help have an informed discussion today, we wanted to remind everybody of the costs of the park area. And for some of the newer council members, this park area that we're calling the park area is really the lower portion of the site where we have the playground, walking paths, restroom, pavilions, parking lot, nature trails, stream crossing, and majority of what we've been talking about for the park to this point. We were tracking about a $2.5 million project for that, with another $300,000 in engineering. And as a reminder on that engineering, this did not just include the typical design fees, but we also had a lot of engineering associated with development in the floodplain. We also conducted geotechnical analysis of the full site, including that north slope, and did cultural resource analysis and survey, wetland delineation, and threatened endangered species to align with some of the ARPA requirements for it.
So on that last screen, if you go back real quick, start to paint a financial picture a little bit. So you got 2.8 million project, that's the budgeted so far, right? What is our estimate cost in this area right now?
We're still at about $2.8 million in this
For this,
area.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
for the park area.
Thank you.
So kind of, it's a little difficult to split these projects up with all the complexity, but generally some of the decreased costs with the park, we had some increased costs with some of the bioretention that's serving the whole project, not just the park area.
Okay.
This slide shows what we had previously presented when we talked about shifting the play area. And basically, the darker kind of green you see in the bottom of the slide or on your screen was the bioretention area we had in the design when we were here in June. As we work through the levy district requirements as well as sort of plugging into additional stormwater flow from that north slope, that bioretention area has increased. We haven't had to adjust the playground design or size of the playground at all, really just sort of increase the bioretention area next to that. Sort of moving on to the slope stabilization area. This effort is on the north side of the park, immediately behind residences' backyards. This is the steepest portion of the site, about a 45-degree slope. And previously, City Council had approved engineering for this, as well as to kind of move forward with a design to address the issues of erosion here. The project aligns with the city's strategic plan as well. And in addition, given it's directly adjacent to the stream flowing into the levee that's just south of our site, we felt like it's important to consider as a priority to protect that critical infrastructure. Previously, we'd focus on the park area and stream crossing, but since June, we've developed that design and approach. And kind of per public comment, we haven't really shared any designs for the north slope until today, because that design work all happened in the past few months.
Councilmember Smith.
Is that 200,000 at the top of the last slide separate from the 200,000 that's in the 2.8 million?
Separate.
It's a separate. So this was, because I'm trying to remember all the approvals we've made, the 200,000 just for engineering on the mitigation of the erosion.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So in previous council meetings, we have shared some of the pictures of the erosion in this area that you're seeing on the slides. As we dove deeper into the issues here over the past few months, I'd say generally they were worse than we anticipated. One of the major issues here are at least 5 large gullies that have formed over time on that slope. These are roughly 10 to 12 feet deep and represent over 1,000 cubic yards of soil that eroded from that slope over the past decades. We also observed a network of broken pipes in many of these gullies. You can see that in the middle image, leading us to believe that past attempts had failed when they tried to solve these issues with a lighter touch or least holistic approach. In addition, areas outside the gullies do not have good vegetation. There's a lot of invasive species which don't really naturally hold that slope. So we've also included some additional photos of the area. These are more up top, immediately behind the residences' backyards. But once we started to engineer the approach here, we developed a solution that includes a few different redundancies to prevent issues in the future. The first approach is to capture as much runoff from neighbors' roofs and yards at the top of the slope. That's that kind of blue line you see there. And while this may not seem like a lot of water, I think it's important to remember we're managing runoff not just from roofs, but from yards, and sod is really only a little better than asphalt in terms of runoff in large storm events. This water from above is diverted in 2 different directions, kind of east and west. The east portion is piped to that bioretention area we talked about by the playground. And then the western portion goes to an existing channel that the city constructed a few years back. We do anticipate needing construction easements to access the site along the south edge of residences' backyards that were what we're showing there in the red. But we do have an existing right-of-way in between the residential lots up to the street north of us. Along with capturing the water up top, we propose to fill in the gullies because once you start to concentrate any of that runoff into a smaller channel, that channel will increase and grow over in time. In addition, we propose placement of reinforcement matting over the entire slope. That's to hold it in place into the future and while new vegetation gets established. And then lastly, and I think we talked about this in a previous meeting, we're providing stream bank stabilization at the top of the slope where that stream kind of takes the curve, basically to avoid that stream from cutting into that slope and creating any additional erosion issues into the future.
Can I jump in and ask a question kind of on the background of this a little bit? And I'm not super familiar with the area. I've looked on, Google Maps and stuff, but I haven't been there myself. I guess this stream and the erosion area, do we know kind of like how long that stream has been there, and was it something like the city originally helped? Just kind of, I'm trying to understand the origins of this situation we're in.
I think the stream has been here for, 100 years or more, or historically. In terms of, were you asking about some of the previous issue?
Well, I'm seeing this concrete work here in the picture, so, if we know when and why that was built, essentially.
I think what we're looking at up top there are measures that residences have taken to try and address their backyards, some of which I think includes throwing concrete and things over their walls to hold that. You can see the kind of buttresses that have been added to walls. I don't know if the city found kind of records of the storm pipe projects that we saw, but
Well, the one to the far west there, yeah, that one probably is about 8-10 years old.
Yeah.
I did have some staff that remembered that one. That's at the very end by Chippewa there. Not shown in any of these pictures, but yeah, as Lance said, the channel under the highway is probably you're looking at 70 years old. I mean the channel itself comes down from the Rock Creek watershed. 100 years, that could be on the lighter side. I mean, they could be there for a very long time. So it kind of, as it comes into the park, under the highway, it makes that turn. It's probably always cut into that hillside. Seen other examples like this where you sometimes fill in to create pad sites where you can build houses. A lot of times when you see the debris, we saw bricks, concrete, different stuff like that. That can even go back to the construction of the houses where they just throw stuff into the channel. Maybe someone had a shed or a chimney was destroyed at one point, and you throw things in. Pretty typical slope stability issues. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a lot of history there.
Okay, so would I be right, and I know I'm glossing too many details, but kind of like a long-standing watershed that now has eroded to the point it's impacting a few houses, personal property there?
Yeah, I've seen files, I've seen letters in my files from Pat Hauver back from like 2007 where residents were reaching out saying, hey, this is a massive erosion issue, what can be done? So it's been an ongoing issue for the city for a long time.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
And to kind of follow that, assuming, play this thought process out, if the city does nothing to stop the erosion, are we talking people's houses are going to fall off this cliff, or are we going to lose some of the backyards? What is the scale and timing of how that erosion is going?
I'd say it's difficult to pinpoint a specific timeline or action of items that will happen there over the years. I think the concern is, people will use their backyards or lose their backyards. I think from our standpoint as well, keep in mind everything flowing to that stream goes into the levee stream. All the sediment and soil that flows into that reduces the amount of volume and water that can move through that kind of levee water flow. So I think that was you know, a reason we thought to address this. You know, it would take a lot more study to really like specifically say what could maybe happen over time, because there are a lot of, you know, variances that could happen there. But
I don't know if we had like found a way to measure how quickly these backyards disappearing. Is it an inch a year? Is it 2 feet a year? I mean, are we? I've seen some of the stuff in California where like people's literal houses are falling into the ocean, and now I'm looking at this. Are we looking at the same thing?
I think it's, you know, inches and feet in certain yards where you can see, you know, fairly recent things in the last 5 to 10 years they've done that have already washed out. So
Now, we're looking at the erosion piece. I think this came about because we were looking at the area for the park, but to me, they seem like pretty discrete projects. One impacts the other, but it looks like through the rest of the slide, we'll get to it, that we're kind of commingling the budgets of the two. Is the erosion something that will be an impact to the new play area and portion of the park that we've had designed and have plans moving forward with? Is it, if we don't do the erosion stuff right now, is it going to stop the park from getting built?
I would say if we don't do the park now, it would not preclude the city from doing that later, but talk about that later.
Do you mean the erosion now? Sorry, you said if we don't do the park now, it won't affect the erosion. Was your question if we hold off on the slope?
Is the
and build the park?
erosion, like, do we have to fix the erosion to have the park?
No, not necessarily, but yeah, if you
It's something we
don't
should look
address.
at. Yeah, we need
if
to
you
address
don't
it,
address
but I'm just trying to parse in my mind, because we are looking at top line number, grant came in for the park, now we have extra money in the pot to maybe do erosion work with, and that's where I struggle with the kind of financial piece of all of it, so.
So we do get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
There are some things to consider, like double mobilization,
Right.
price increase substantially. There is a concern that if we were to come back later and address the erosion, what damage are we doing to the park, bringing in that kind of heavy machinery?
You will, yeah, likely tear out portions of that park improvement to get access to the slope.
Was the right-of-way is up above on the slope, right?
They're likely going to work from above and below.
I got you. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm still thinking about the cause of the water here, but is there anything the city has like done that's exacerbated this problem, or is it just kind of like a long-standing, you know, natural, just water's been flowing through here for 70 or 100 years?
I don't,
And, you know, nobody's done anything about it, essentially.
I don't know that the city's done anything to make the problems worse. I think they've, you know, tried to fix them. I can't say for sure that the pipes that were put in those gullies didn't make it worse, given that they washed out so quickly. But
Yeah, if you
seems like an issue that has been tried to address. And as Anthony mentioned, just to the west, that was a pretty recent project to kind of address some of that. But I think this was more challenging. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence over time where it looks like the city, and again, historical accounts from city staff where the city has gone in to try to help this situation. You know, if you look at that map that he's got pulled up right there, you know, those gullies are between the houses. There's a lot of runoff from the surface up top that goes down, cuts in between, and then slowly erodes out. So you're looking at multiple, you know, looking at the creek moving around in the lower watershed, cutting into the hill. You're looking at water coming down between the houses off people's yards, cutting into the hill. You multiply that by 30 years, and, you know, again, some of those pipes look like they've been put in to try to slow that down. Kind of different cheap fixes, if you will, along the way. You know, throw rock in there, throw broken concrete in there, try to slow down, dissipate the energy. See a lot of evidence of that, but you're looking at a 30, 40-year fight, probably since the houses were originally built, to try to stop that.
Yeah, to Anthony's point, I mean, in walking up there as a council person and kind of getting a feedback and mentioning, you know, my plans, I want to build this up as a park, they're like, how are you going to help this hill? All of our homes are at stake. They let me know, and you could see it when you visibly walk it. You can see some people's backyards have already fallen off more than others, and it's a very real problem that's happening that hasn't been addressed properly. I think, and what happens is everybody thinks like, well, I've got an idea. I think I'll throw a toilet down there and that's going to stop this part of the water. And it happened. I mean, there's like random stuff all over the place, and we find that on Seminole as well. But that's what happens when we don't address it in a way from a professional and engineered perspective, is we just keep trying to patch things in a way that's just not effective.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Councilmember Gunn.
So I have a question. I love that there's going to be a park over there, but my question is, given that this hill has a lot of erosion issues, is there a even after you do the mitigation, are there risks to putting a park on the top of this hill where you're going to have more traffic and?
It's not on the
or it's
top
at
of the
bottom?
hill.
So is there any risk at all to having a park near where all of this issue is happening once we mitigate it? Like, does the park exacerbate any part of the erosion issue?
No, because, yeah, that park improvement is sort of downslope and doesn't contribute any of the water to the issues that are happening
Okay,
there.
thank you.
And so I'll ask, I guess, what, you said there's been some other things tried and maybe, obviously, well, not maybe, have not been successful. What odds, I guess, do you give this at being successful? Do you feel pretty confident in this being the solution here?
We do feel pretty confident.
And in a
We do-
long-term, I guess, solution as well?
We do, we understand this is a big investment. Part of the cost associated with it is taking a longer-term approach with it than trying to go cheap and, 10 years from now regretting that and
We're doing
spending.
it. Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
all right. We do plan on preserving as many of the large trees here as possible. However, we will need to remove some of the not so healthy understory vegetation in order to properly install that reinforcement mat. We feel like this is a great opportunity to restore that slope with the diversity of native trees, shrubs, grasses, and wildflowers that would mimic the natural conditions here, as well as hold that slope in the future. And this slide shows just a few of those different species that we're looking at using here. Obviously, as mentioned, this does represent a significant investment, and we wanted to kind of break down the costs at a high level for the effort. A majority of the costs are associated with those kind of first three items listed there. That includes capturing that water up top, filling in the gullies, placing matting on the slope, the restoration, and stream bank stabilization. The work also did increase some of the overall earthwork on the site, as well as that stormwater infrastructure that we talked about earlier by the playground. And then along with those construction costs, we identified soft costs in conjunction with the city. That includes acquiring those temporary construction easements, having an on-site inspector daily, given the complexity of the project. And we've also included some additional contingency in the budget to address any unforeseen construction costs. And with this and the previously approved engineering, we're looking at about $1.6 million for the slope stabilization.
All right, Councilmember Saber, I haven't seen him.
That's the number I was waiting for. At that price, it seems like we could almost buy up all the affected properties for less. And let nature take its course, as it were. And I'm not sure that wouldn't be a better alternative.
So you're suggesting displacing residents that are on the hillside?
Offering, yes.
And
I mean, if you just look at the numbers, for $1.6 million, we're talking what, 5 houses?
I believe there's six slots.
Six.
6 that have immediate show of erosion, but the entire block is affected. The entire block of homes is more than 6 homes.
I'd also kind of remind you of the levee.
And the levee is
the
below
proximity
that.
to that
And so is
allowing
26th
that
Street.
slope to go away wouldn't.
I'm just suggesting we should be maybe a little more imaginative in how we handle this problem.
That happened, and we can walk through and look at the toilets and the busted pipes that were attempted. I mean, I'm truly, because
I
I'm with
believe
you, I'm not excited about this dollar amount either. But I know the cost of waiting, and this is the proof. This has been approached and reapproached over the years, and there's just been Band-Aid approaches every time it has come up. And residents have proven that to me. I wasn't here during that time. I don't live on that hill. I don't see, I mean, I'm on Seminole where backyards are eroding, but I'm letting you know that this is one of those things that even the cost of the park, we have a dollar amount somewhere on my little board. I don't want to bring it out too early, but this is around $70,000 for a park. And it was put off. It was postponed. There were reasons, right? And this is the cost of waiting. This is what happens when we wait and put things off to where they're so dire that we have these gullies that are 12 and 15 feet deep. You know, this isn't like a quick fix where we just all go out and give our best and rip out some, invasive species and lay our bodies down every week. Or sandbag it.
I'm not disputing the cost of doing it that
Yes.
way. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying are there alternatives?
I don't think.
I just thought of that one off the top of my
Yeah,
head. I don't know if there are others or not.
I don't think the option was there. No one had suggested to me that they would like to be displaced from their home on the block, to throw that out there.
Councilmember Smith, and then I'll go Fitzgerald.
Can we go back one slide? Okay, a few questions on this. So the design fee, is that the 200,000 that was approved for engineering from the previous slide?
Yes.
Okay, so it was called engineering, there's design fee here, just making sure that we're talking about the same
Yeah.
number. You had a slide that talked about swapping out invasive species for native species. I'm assuming you're filling in the entire hillside, you're gonna clear out all the stuff that's there other than the big trees, dirt, retaining mat, and then start replanting. How much of the number here is replanting native stuff? Do we know? Have we?
Of that 50K,
Is that earthwork? Is that what we're talking about?
that restoration is 50K.
Okay, so restoration is the
50,000.
replanting piece.
Roughly,
Okay.
yeah.
And then, for me to fully understand the project in simple terms, are we talking about putting a giant French drain at the top of the hillside to capture water and divert it to both sides? Is that just a big pipe that will have entry points for water?
Yeah, so a French drain is basically like a perforated pipe that gets, surrounded by gravel. That gravel kind of has a mound to it, so we can stop that water as it comes down the slope.
That's effectively like we're digging into the backyards, putting in the French drain, running it.
We're keeping that on city property, but that work will require some access from the backyard.
Okay, wanting to make sure that if we go that route, that we're putting it far enough up the slope that it doesn't erode itself off before it's able to be effective. But you're the engineer, you're looking into that.
Yeah, we're trying to avoid unraveling all those retaining walls, so kind of keeping it just below that, and then we do have kind of a heavier mat that gets placed basically to hold everything above that.
Okay, if we're smoothing out the hillside by filling in all the trenches and whatnot that the water's borne out, what is the cost effectiveness of riprap versus the stabilizer mat? Is riprap more expensive or less effective? Like, what do we look at for that?
We have looked at this as kind of the most cost-effective option. You can't really use riprap to infill that type of, that scale of a ditch. And yeah, and just the steepness of that compared to, I think, a lot of other channels you might have seen get riprap, or just slopes that get riprap.
I gotcha.
Basically kind of created, that slope has created all those little drainages that have to be backfilled. And I think, too, it will, look more natural in the future instead of,
Okay. One other item that I'm looking at is 50,000 for easements. That, help me make sense of that.
I think that cost probably is a little high. We're trying to be conservative at this point, but basically that's going to include any title work for each property, a legal description of that easement, and then potentially purchase of the easement, temporary easement from the neighbors. So some of the property value, I would assume that's not going to be very high because they're motivated.
I don't think I'll approve money to purchase stuff that we're going to be fixing houses from falling off a cliff. But that's what I was wondering, is there are legal costs associated
Yeah, as well
with
as,
it.
legal fees associated with all
right.
the survey work as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Fitzgerald. There you go, Councilmember Alvarez.
I just had a question. Right underneath that easements, the inspection is 160,000. What is that?
That's the daily, to have an inspector on site basically daily during construction.
So this was something that kind of came up during our conversations, is that because this is an extremely unique project, that you need a really highly specialized person. Actually, it was Director Sands that kind of suggested that we need somebody who has a very good understanding of what to look for to make sure that this project is stabilizing that area. This is incredibly specialized, and really, staff, we do not have this type of expertise.
So, if I could, just like what you see on the apartment complex between Cherry and Holmes, this is going to be a very large earth-moving activity. We want to make sure that erosion control's in place, there's daily inspection, the proper tests are being done. I don't want to scare anyone about the project, but it is a very large project. It's, as the conversation's kind of alluded to, there's been smaller fixes throughout the generations that have tried to approach this, and they're very, patchwork, if you will. This is the big fix. So if we are going to go down this road, it's very highly encouraged to have professional inspection and observation of this kind of project.
Keep in mind that I think a part of the restoration, one piece of this is whoever is doing the plantings, the native plantings, that's going to be something they maintain for, I believe, 3 years beyond the project. They go back to maintain it, make sure everything is stable. They're constantly checking, going back to those particular plantings. So that's also a part of this as well.
Sorry, I'll jump in, then I'll let you. It is a big price, but I do think it's worth it, and especially if we can get a long-term plan, right? If we're talking about a long-term solution over time, then a per-year cost, or however you want to look at it, does get cheaper. And this could be something that is, as Councilmember Clark pointed out, not only helps with these houses, but as you start looking 50, 60 years down the road, probably something, it's helping protect houses even farther away over time as well. Obviously dramatically over time, decreasing the city's cost, we hope, by finding a solution here. So definitely in favor of this. I know, start off as a park project, and we get up on the hill, and then we got a little bit more of a project going on, but I definitely think, this is a very important component of what we're doing here now. Councilmember Smith.
So the bioretention piece that you mentioned in the budget for the park, how things have kind of ebbed and flowed, and you mentioned as part of the rising cost of the budget at the park, as we've saved money here, we expanded the bioretention area, and that increased the park budget. Is that encapsulated in this 200,000, or is that also part of the park costs? No, the additional bioretention infrastructure, 200,000.
The numbers listed here, that 100,000 and 200,000, are associated directly with the slope stabilization, even though we're sort of retaining that water on the park site. If that makes sense. It's kind of how we've...
This is the extra amount of bioretention necessary within the park. So the park would have been okay with this much bioretention, but if we're going to mitigate the erosion, we need this much bioretention, and it's the extra 200,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess a stepping back question: other cities have dealt with erosion on their soil. Is it typical for a city to jump in and make the fix, or is it usually the residents that do that own the property that's impacted, or is it more of a city responsibility? Have we looked around to see what's going on with that?
Yeah, so it can vary depending on what easements are there. If you compare this to Seminole, right? So Seminole doesn't have,
Right.
you know, there's,
Not
not
a
that we
levee.
can find an established stormwater easement. It's private property. It makes it harder for us to go in there and do something. This is city property up to these fences. I'm not sure if the fences are on the property line, but this is city property up to the back of these property lines. So it can vary, I guess, to answer your question. In Gladstone, we had different projects like this when I worked for that city. You know, if there's established easements, you have permission, 9 times out of 10, you are asking for temporary construction easements because to get the footprint of the project right, you have to get onto their property. And you hopefully get donations in that regard, because you're helping out, you know, their conditions. But this is majority on city property where this hillside is.
Okay. And the other downhill, I mean, for a horrible pun, the downhill impact of this is the levee is also affected by the runoff. So, okay, thanks.
We touched on a lot of these considerations already. I don't know if you want me to go through them all, or if there's anything on there
Do
in
you have
particular.
any questions about anything in here? We really kind of tried to think about what would happen if we separate them, and there's disruption times 2. We'd have to pull 2 completely separate permits. This project is incredibly, one thing that we have learned over the last year is how incredibly complicated this particular project is, because you have to get permitting from both the levee district and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So anytime you touch anything in this area, it's almost triple permit. So if we were to go back later, we'd have to go through that process all over again. We would have, the park structures would probably have, there would be definitely disruption to the park if we came back later and did and addressed the erosion. Now is kind of the time, if you're going to do it, to do them both together, because if we were to move forward right now, we'd be pulling one permit that addresses all of the activity in that space. We have been told, we've been meeting with them, that what they like about this project is that it addresses everything in that space. You're not building one and then going, don't look over here. We're going to try to kind of silo these projects. This is a very holistic approach. And from what we've been talking to our counterparts at both the levee and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, what they like is this holistic approach.
Councilmember Smith.
Are there additional grants or other monies that we could get for doing this all at once?
So we looked at this. I actually looked at pulling a different grant. Some of the challenge is that the time horizon for the ARPA grant, we have to expend every dollar by a certain time in 2026. The other grant that I was told that we would have a pretty good shot at doesn't even begin issuing dollars to 2027. So I have a timeline gap. So one of the challenges is if I were to wait and go after other grants, I will lose the $1.2 million grant for sure.
Seems like a case for phasing the project a little bit. I mean, getting the important groundwork done, but phasing it in time.
I was also told that if we touched anything in that project area before, it's
27.
the U.S., it's the land grant. So there's a land grant through the state. What we were told by the land grant from the state, and they only had $500,000 available to funding, that if we touched any of the project area before 2027, it nullified my application. Because I went to the training and specifically asked about this particular project, hoping that what I could do was kind of do one and the other. And they had told us that if you touch the project area before the grant is awarded, and the earliest they would have awarded it to us is 2027, that it nullifies your application.
And there's no qualifiers to maybe the land wouldn't exist by 27?
I tried. I tried.
No, I'm sure. Okay. I mean, yes, it does make sense to run them concurrently.
I'll let you ask the question. Fitzgerald, what do you got?
Do we know if the erosion dollars are in the projected budget?
The erosion,
I guess it'd be the 1.6
1.4.
offset by the ARPA grant here.
no, I'd
Not in
mentioned,
here.
I think that after this discussion, I'd mentioned this and the Public Safety Memorial, we'd bring forward a reappropriating amendment to the next meeting based on the discussions tonight.
Well, and the amended amount we're discussing is $650,000, not 1.6.
How do we,
But we-
how do we get to that 650?
So I actually have an idea on that, if I may. Now, there's no guarantee, but if you recall at the last meeting, we asked for approval to request from the county to shift the 700,000 that they were putting towards the Burlington water main to the 1.5 million PID 15th Avenue project. I go Thursday night to the county commission meeting to answer any questions they might have, but should they honor that request, then we freed up 700,000 right there that is in the budget that could be shifted over to cover this additional cost.
We're also going to need to do a project on 15th Avenue too.
Right, no, just 700, just.
Still have to
just-
find money.
Just shift, that's
That
in the
is in the
budget.
budget.
That's
Yeah.
in the budget,
Yeah.
proposed
Yeah, I heard
budget.
1.5 is in the budget already,
Right.
so if he gets the money for 700,000, that frees up that out of that
That frees
1.5.
some out of that
To
put towards this.
Can we get to how 650,000 falls out of the numbers we've looked at tonight? So I've tried to do some math, and I've got 2.8 minus the ARPA funds plus 1.6 is 3.15 million minus 2.5 million that's already been budgeted. Is that how we got to 650?
Say how I have it. Nick, do you want to? Okay, yeah, we tag team it. But basically, it's, go ahead.
So the 650,000 would be the net effect against fund balance for the project. So when the project was initially budgeted, it was budgeted in the Parks Fund, but $2.5 million was transferred from the gaming fund. So that has occurred. We have not received any of the reimbursement yet, so the reimbursement that we receive would either go into the gaming fund and we would transfer that to Parks, or we would just put it in the Parks Fund, and that 2.5 plus the 1.25 minus the $4.4 million total cost is the 650. So the 650,000 is the net effect on fund balance, unless we shifted some of that 700,000, then that would essentially, from a budget perspective, be a wash on either fund balance in the Parks Fund or the gaming fund, however we work that piece out.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still costing us $1.6 million more than it was. I mean, no matter how we shake it.
Yeah,
That's just that's the ask. That's the reality, right? Is to spend an additional 1.6, which I'm in favor of. But that's it's like we're doing a lot of spinning of numbers here when we have one project that's 2.8 million, and another that's 1.6, and that is what it is.
Yes, that's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm
Okay.
I'm just talking about the net.
Yeah,
effect
net
on
fund balance. Oh, yeah. I see where you're going there. Yeah. Got it. Thank you. So I guess is there further questions for Nick before he goes back? Okay, there we go. I think we're good on the, okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. What else we got? What else? Is there another slide?
So what, are we looking for direction of some kind? Because the budget is the next item. Are we looking to add ahead of that? How does that work? Sorry, I guess I had a question for Nick.
No, I'm gonna look to him on, there's two different ways to do it, but you know, on the next item with the budget, it could be amended as well, a motion with an amendment in it to include
650,000.
for us to, for lack of a better term, reappropriate the project, both that were discussed tonight from this year to the proposed budget. Is one way to handle it. We can also come back at the next meeting with.
Let's bring it all back.
Yeah.
So approve the budget and then bring a bunch of, like, $1.5 million in amendments?
Or just do the budget next meeting.
Can we, or do we have to do the budget before we approve a levy?
It doesn't have to be this.
No.
Oh, so we can wait till next meeting for budget?
Yeah.
Budget on abeyance?
What could be pretty simple is if you amend the budget resolution, and it's a resolution, I would just add those amounts to the respective funds, and then update the project numbers in the budget book. All of that could be done within a couple of days. So then the resolution itself could be amended by tomorrow morning. for signature, if approved.
Gotcha.
Is the resolution amended to mention the 1.6 or the 650 as far as the overall budget amendment? The verbiage I understood was to,
Just bring it back if we don't have a deadline.
You would need to have 4.4 less what has already been paid for already. So that because the project itself needs that full authority.
Sure.
And then we would offset that with,
so the resolution would be for 4.4 million to be the new grand total of park and slope project, and then it becomes one as far as the coding or whatever happens on the city side.
correct.
Okay. Well, I would move to, is this
Well,
a motion or what?
No,
No.
you still have another slide left.
It's just a picture of his kids.
How about that? Let's go there first. Yes. Let's get, you got two slides.
These are the
Yes.
engineering things we've
So this is
completed,
boring. You can skip that one.
checked off.
I'm not sure. Does anyone want them to
Oops.
read all these permits to you? No? Okay, you can go to the next slide.
Sorry. Schedule-wise, we're still on track, trying to get
Sorry.
it out to bid.
Yeah.
And
A lot of acronyms
in
on there.
in October, and hopefully have a contract for approval by the end of the year, trying to let construction start early 2025, so we can hit that safe construction window for removal of trees, and try and get the project completed by the end of the year.
There we go.
And so, yeah, in terms of our next steps, we will start submitting on all the permits in terms of the city, levy district, and Army Corps, as well as state. And then I already talked about the other bullet items there in terms of schedule, so.
There we go. So that's really, if you go back one slide there, because that'll be the basis here. This is really what we're approving tonight and moving forward with. And I guess saying we're okay with the plan that we saw tonight. We're okay with continuing with the big part, which would be hill stabilization. And there you go. That would be the idea, I think, right?
Yes.
I look at you for that. There we
Yeah.
go.
I just want to
Councilmember
be
Lark would
clear,
love to
we
continue
all
on this
saw,
project.
yes, I would like to continue forward with this project. I am totally open to questions. I have sat through many of these meetings. I have these slides maybe memorized. We've gone through all the pain of no rise or little rise to no rise. I know all of it is a lot, and I know, but again, I just know the cost of waiting has affected this drastically. It's been painful to look in the library, to look at park plans, and to look at this little sweet cutout like a science fair project and see the dollar amount associated with that, and to know where we are today. And but I do appreciate all of the precautions that have been addressed and the things that have been addressed in this process by going with landscape architects that are being good stewards of the earth and saying this is how we play with the earth and enjoy the things we enjoy. And this is how we interact with it in a way that's respectful and is sustainable. So I think that's what we're accomplishing in this, which may feel different than some other projects we've done in the past. And I hope that this kind of sets a standard. We would hope everything would become less expensive, but this is where we're at. And yeah, I just appreciate everyone's consideration.
There we go. Thank you, Councilmember Fitzgerald.
I guess for what it's worth, despite all my questions, I'd be in favor of this. It's a lot of money. I don't feel great about spending it, but at the end of the day, we have a issue on city property that's impacting these residents, so I think we owe it to them to fix it.
I agree, it's expensive, but we definitely have an opportunity to do something to try to correct some of this, and that doesn't include buying all of the houses. I'm sorry. I always love the outside the box thinking and make sure we explore all alternatives, but.
Move to approve.
There's nothing to.
There's not a motion? We don't need a motion?
We can do one if you
We don't
want.
need a
If you want to
motion?
vote, we can take a vote.
I would like a motion to
There we go.
approve that we move
I've never seen that
forward
little
of
motion.
everything we described and laid out for everyone tonight. I really don't want to have to keep coming back here and doing these meetings, guys. If we
Right.
can help it.
Can you restate that motion?
So
Just kidding.
the official approval will be with the budgeted item amendment, right? So
On the rest, so this is going to go ahead on everything though, so yeah, we can do it quick, just to make sure everyone's on board, and so it's very clear to staff that the vote's here, which it sounds like it is.
The
Is there a
amended
second?
amount associated with
Yes.
this project in its totality,
There we go.
understanding that it
Move
was
ahead
broken
as
out in
presented.
two.
now,
There we
one other thing
Go ahead.
before we vote it, there are other areas that are eroding. If we approve this, are we going to then be beholden to the next and the next and the next when those start happening, or I guess they're ongoing, will there be another ask? Will we be, here in, I don't know, a year approving another $2 million to prop up another eroding hillside? That's my long-term concern, is that this isn't the first or only, and it's going to be a lot of unforeseen monies coming out of the city's coffers really quickly. And this one is on city ground. It is headed to the levee. It's impacting a park. All of that makes sense, but I can start to see the next one and the next one. And so by approving this one, I don't want to set that precedent yet. We don't want to take them one at a time if there's more asks. So a vote on this to approve does not mean every other erosion piece is going to get handled right away. So with that, we can go ahead and vote.
All right, motion, was there a second?
Second.
Second, there we go. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item. And thank you, Lance Klein.
Adopting the budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025, resolution number 24-058.
Do we just want to clean this up and have it brought back with the budget amendment? Make this
Absolutely.
cleaner.
Yes.
Yeah, clean it up.
Abeyance.
Okay, now I will ask for any further comments on the budget since we have another open. Councilmember Smith.
I meant to say this at the last meeting, but I would like to entertain a budget item to get legal assistance for Tom. Tom is an asset to the city. He's doing great work, but he is overworked and can at times become a bottleneck. We've talked a lot about getting him assistance, and we have not funded that before, I don't think. So I would like to put some kind of money into this year's budget to make that happen. I don't know what the number would be, though, if we had.
If I remember correctly, we had 50,000 in this year's budget. I did reduce it for 25 because
You didn't
But
have.
we
it
have
wasn't
legal
used.
before what,
But,
though?
Contract.
Legal services.
Legal services,
legal
but we're
services.
talking, if we're talking more direct help, that might be a different
Right.
line.
And-
That's an employee line, potentially.
Well, and that was a
Personnel
question. Do you want that
wage.
I don't know.
included in salaries? Do you want that as a consulting?
That would be an open
Contractual?
discussion, I guess, and we could have that discussion now, whether it's a consulting service, like an on-call legal assistance, or if it's bringing someone on, knowing that Tom will not be here forever, and he can train that person and help, but also have legal assistance. And this has been, as I say, an ongoing discussion. It needs to happen. And so if we get some money in the budget, I think it takes us a step toward making that happen.
I would,
That
part-time,
would be a-
full-time,
125,000 time. I don't know. It's going to be a number at some point.
Right.
Go a number. What was your budget amendment number? I didn't.
Oh, gosh, we had 50 before, but I don't know what a full-time,
Maybe by the time benefits and
part-time
everything else,
with
you're going to be topping on
benefits.
100 anyway. Like,
Yeah, I
are
mean,
you talking
we're going to amend it anyway, so
someone-
100 to see where, 100, and then we amend it up or down
Yeah.
based on an offer.
We could start
Is
with
that fine with everybody?
and you would consider that into like compensation benefits sort of
I think
lines.
contractual or a salaried
I mean,
employee.
at the time we figure that out, we make a reallocation.
We can also,
Yeah,
yeah.
the money's
we can
there.
shift.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
put
right.
it in whichever one feels right.
And what was that number again?
100,000.
There we go. What else we got? Councilmember Saper looked like you had something.
That's fine.
He's going to hold
No,
for
I,
now. Oh, no, he's
no,
Councilmember
our only
Saper, please.
comment is, since we're not voting on this tonight on the budget, we have time to talk to Tom.
Yeah, more time to digest and work
Yeah.
on that. Yep. Further comments on budget? Any other budget? There we go. Then we will see the budget again in,
With the
I was going to say in
direction,
2 weeks, but it's not 2 weeks, is it?
with the direction to amend it with the River Forest Park discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was
and-
encapsulated, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Just
River
making sure.
Forest.
In the last.
Oh, yeah, that motion and
Yeah.
second and vote already happened.
So that'll be September 24th,
There we go.
which is.
I was going to say
yeah,
in 2 weeks, but we will do this in
3 weeks.
3. I should have a special note here.
Well, someone will be here.
The Missouri Municipal League Annual Conference. All right, that ends that conversation. There we go. Crystal, next item, please.
Declaring the results of the city special election for Proposition 2 held in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri on August 6, 2024. Bill number 7870, ordinance number 9667.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Get ready. An ordinance declaring the results of the special public election held in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri on August 6, 2024, on the question of whether to approve the imposition of an additional sales tax of 3% on the retail sale of adult-use non-medical marijuana in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri, and declaring the approval by the voters of the imposition of a citywide non-medical marijuana sales tax on all retail sales. I know.
I recommend that Bill number 7870 be placed on second and final reading and placed as ordinance number 9667.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
An ordinance declaring the results of the special public election held in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri on August 6, 2024, on the question of whether to approve the imposition of an additional sales tax of 3% on the retail sale of adult-use non-medical marijuana in the city of North Kansas City, Missouri, and declaring the approval by the voters of the imposition of a citywide non-medical marijuana sales tax on all retail sales.
Next item, please.
I got it
Okay.
there. Approving accounts due and payable by the city through August 30th, 2024. Bill number 7871, ordinance number 9668.
First reading?
Second.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 30th, 2024.
I move that bill number 7871 be placed on second and final reading and pass as ordinance number 9668.
Second?
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Saper?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through August 30th, 2024.
Thank you. 23, staff comments.
All right, only thing tonight, I already mentioned it, but next meeting's September 24th, as Mayor, I believe, Councilmember Alvarez, and some staff will be at MML on the 17th. We will send a reminder out prior to the 17th, just to let you all know. Additionally, I believe Anthony and Kim have some comments tonight. Yeah.
First, okay. So I just want to talk about an upcoming item, mid-October, so October 16th. The city will be submitting the lead and copper inventory to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. This has been something city staff has been working on. We've identified all service connections, which is the goal of this initial inventory. And we have thus far investigated 600 connections and have not found lead in our system yet. As far as the service lines go. We are still continuing on the process. We're going to be meeting with our consultant tomorrow to make sure we're kind of aligned to do our submittal on October 16th. After that submittal is done, whatever has not been identified yet, we will be sending out letters to those businesses, homeowners, basically saying you're in an unknown situation, possibly lead, but we're working to get through the entire inventory. It's an ongoing process that'll be ongoing for that matter. So again, October 16th is when that's coming up. Just kind of wanted to put that out there and start talking about that process and how we're going forward. We can actually, I heard you, I don't know if anyone else did.
My question was, how much longer will it take?
We've knocked out 600 of them. We have about 2,100 connections in the system. We try to prioritize staff on them when we're not doing water main breaks and all these other things for O&M that we have to do. So it's hard to estimate at this point, but we feel like we can possibly get through them all. Not before October 16th, of course, but we can manage getting through them all.
Within the next year?
Probably within the next year, I would definitely say, yeah. I think there's going to be challenges. The ones we identify now, we open up the manhole lids to the meter pits, and we can look in there, determine if there's some that are not as easy to determine. We kind of, have to do more methods. Initially, we did do some potholing in the avenues because those are some of our oldest connections going back to the 1920s. And even digging up through the streets, we did not find lead that way. So because of that, we've gone to opening meter pit lids and just identifying what we see there. Getting into the business and commercial sections, we'll get a lot more different varying things. So we'll see what we get to.
Question.
Oh, Councilmember Smith got one.
One of the staff comment items was the sign code interpretation letter. Shu put that one out there ahead of the election season, making sure that we're being nonpartisan, I believe. Thank you for that. Question on signs. As we get into the more heated portion of the election time, do we have rules on obscenities on signs or what is and is not tolerable in the city?
No.
No.
Profanity is a right.
What's that?
There is a profanity right over there.
There was a
Supreme
court case in the
case, so-
1970s that stated that profanity in the public is actually a protected right. So this is something that we at the staff level, we hear quite a bit of people contacting us about. Specifically, it seems to be flags with colorful language on it. We cannot regulate content. I'm doing my very best to channel Tom at this moment. I'm kind of sitting where he sits.
Sure.
So, but there is some very famous cases that have gone all the way up to the Supreme Court that state profanity is your right. And we cannot regulate content. So we can regulate placement, we can kind of regulate size, but we cannot regulate what is on said item. And if it is full of colorful language, that is your First Amendment right.
Thank you. I'm sure I will be getting messages left, right, and center on content of signs. So having that, if you could maybe email us that case law so I can pass that along. Certainly annoying that that's the case, but thanks for letting us know.
I do enjoy a good pun. I do have one more staff comment. I'll kind of, I think, round you out. Because we have so many weeks in between our next meeting, we were contacted by the YMCA, who is having a rental that would like a small petting zoo. I'm not sure what the date of their particular item is yet. What I would ask is, should they come with a short-term conditional use permit? Would you allow staff, if it were to meet all of the city's requirements, to be able to issue said? We have not gotten to the agenda item where it would allow staff to be able to do this on a formalized process, but kind of my request would be, would you allow it if it met all of the requirements?
He seems less confident, but put that in the minutes. No, I'm kidding. A less confident shrug. Sure one. Okay. That's it, right? We done, Anthony? Nothing else? All right. Councilmember Todd.
I get to go first. To the Parks Department and everyone who worked on Endless Game, thanks. My kids had a blast. They want a pet duck now and some other farm animals, so had to break their hearts. But they went out and played some mini golf. I mean, it was just, and I mean, I don't know if you also somehow got beautiful weather for this on purpose, but it was, just a great event all around. Thank you, Ms. Shaw, for coming out and sharing your comments, and thanks, I know he left, but thanks for the update on River Forest Park. And that's it. Have a great night.
Thank you. Councilmember Safer.
I think I'm glad we had an update on River Forest Park. I'm not sure. Let me think about this one a little bit more. Anyway, the Endless Game redo was great, and the slide feature was terrific. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
I'm just going to echo what everyone else has said about the Endless Game. I went late Friday night and late Sunday, which I guess were both probably Saturday morning and Monday morning. Watching baseball at 1:30 in the morning with a bunch of friends was a really good time. And we all commented that we will make that a thing we're going to do every time if this comes back. So it was a whole lot of fun. It was such a well organized event. And really thanks to Victoria and all the volunteers and all the players and the support that they had. It was a really great event.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
Yes, the endless game was amazing, and thank you for letting me participate. I am very sore after playing 6 hours of baseball over the weekend, but very fun. My girls enjoyed it. I do hear that there are some hosers up in Canada trying to break the record right now, which means next year might get real. So we'll be looking forward to that. So speaking of hillside erosion, the hillside over top of 32nd Avenue between Cherry and Holmes was mentioned earlier. For all of you watching, that is a Kansas City, Missouri project. We do have a lot of conditions that fortunately our levee engineers were able to get into their planning commission. So we are in what I like to call the danger zone right now because they've clear cut the hillside and have put in none of the safety measures yet. But fortunately we have Anthony Sands who is keeping a close eye on what's going on there. I called him when there was some dirt on 32nd Avenue and he knew exactly what was happening. So that's great. But if you do see heavy machinery trucking up and down Howell, please let City Hall know that's not supposed to be happening. Storm debris, we had a pretty crazy microburst happen, and I got pictures from a few residents. Wanted to pass along thanks to Public Works for having those limbs off the ground before it stopped raining. That is insane and incredible. Sad item to report that a local dog passed away due to some dogs that were off leash attacking the dog. I want to remind people that we have leash laws for a reason. That's not us trying to be jerks and ruining your fun. Keep your dogs on a leash, please. And tomorrow is large item pickup day for all who celebrate. That's all from me.
Thank you. Councilmember Fitzgerald.
I also got to enjoy some late night baseball via the endless game. I know it takes a lot of volunteers to put that on, so thank you to everybody involved, and would hopefully it comes back next year. It's a cool event.
Alvarez.
Yes, just want to say I did get to stop by for just a little bit for the endless game and got to catch up with some of the officers that I used to work with. And also, just want to remind everybody that the bulk pickup tomorrow. I think the garage sale is sometime this month, September 21st, I think. So neighborhood garage sale will have that. And then just want to say I'm looking forward to the Public Safety Memorial and getting that project done and seeing what that looks like. I think that'll bring a lot of honor to the department and look forward to that.
Thank you, Councilmember Clark.
Thank you, Jolene, for taking the time to come speak tonight to city staff. Oh, let's see. Oh, and city staff, to your point on Seminole, they've assured me we'll have a meeting in the coming weeks, to discuss the findings from the walkthrough and go through an educational process as well. So thank you so much for bringing that up, as well as your support for the park. And thank you to everyone who weighed in on River Forest Park tonight. I know it was quite a meeting and quite a price tag, but I think it's going to yield a great change for that area. That's been a long time coming. Kim, thank you for all your work that you've put into this project. That'll just be ongoing because it's not over. Yeah, and thank you, Council, for asking very hard questions and serving the community in the end by addressing a long overdue stormwater management issue. Let's see. I look forward to the donations that we hope to see come in from businesses as a show of support for the Public Safety Memorial Fund, which, who is kind of heading that? Who's kind of in charge of that?
So Rich Grove actually texted me during the meeting that he will be putting out something to let businesses know that that project will be accepting donations.
Excellent, excellent. So let's keep the momentum going on that. Look forward to that. And I have to say, it's not lost on me that signs with profanity currently have more rights than women. That's it for me. Thanks.
There you go. Thank you. Endless game. Great job, Victoria. I will add the auction is still open, so there's still time to get involved in some sort of way and jump on some of these fantastic auction items over the next, it says 3 days left, so there we go. With that, item 26, Consideration of a request to hold and recess an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a collective bargaining matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610-0219. Is there a motion? There we go.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Safer?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Number 27, consideration of request to hold and recess an executive session as requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a contractual matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute 610-02112.
Move to approve.
Second.
So excited. All in favor, or call the roll, please.
Councilmember Todd?
Yes.
Councilmember Safer?
Yes.
Councilmember McGrone?
Yes.
Councilmember Smith?
Yep.
Councilmember Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Councilmember Alvarez?
Yes.
Councilmember Clark?
Yes.
Boom. With that, the Channel 2 and YouTube live stream will cut off. There'll be no further public votes taken this evening. Thank you.